you have to take a lot of rejection that hardens you in the right way. And it just aligns you with reality in the right way. And kind of, sales is almost like the military of business. It's like, it's a good prerequisite to really do something that is quite hard and requires you to take on a lot of risk. And, you have to eat what you kill, so to speak.
Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we will explore the world of entrepreneurship, sales leadership, and the journeys that define success beyond the numbers. Our guest today is Cole Thomas Gordon, not only the founder and CEO of Closes.io, a leading sales training and recruiting company, but also a serial entrepreneur with an impressive track record. Cole scaled Closes.io from 0 to 30 million in annual revenue in just 26 months. Before that, he created a $20 million per year sales certification company and a $30 million per year medical clinic chain. His expertise in building and scaling businesses is matched by his commitment to leadership, personal growth, and empowering others through sales mastery. But beyond the revenue figures and rapid growth, there's a deeper journey, a path of resilience, strategic thinking, and the wisdom that comes with leading from the front. To share his insights on entrepreneurship, leadership, and the principles that have guided his success, I'm excited to welcome Cole Thomas Gordon to today's episode. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godparents turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Cole, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Well, anything related to sales training, sales leadership, building sales teams, scaling companies, especially marketing and sales in terms of how to grow and grow fast. That's what I feel like I have the most wisdom of, and I'm the best at.
Well, there you go. And what about Cole the human? What are you the best at outside of what Cole does for work?
Oh, it's a good question. Work is such a big part of my life. Like it's my main hobby. I have a phenomenal relationship, and that is one of the most important parts of my life. So that's big. But, I think a lot of what I do is like geared towards my business and just really my growth overall as a person. Like that's just my number one way. I always, even when I was younger, I always liked to progress and grow, whether it was in sports or whether it was in a different aspect of my life and so on and so forth. So business is kind of that personal development journey now for me, as I'm a little older.
I actually totally relate. I feel like the work that I do is who I am. And so I move into different facets of self, but all of it is me. I don't feel like I go to work. I feel like I kind of am work. Is that something you relate to?
Yes. Yes. And what I would say is that one of the trickier things is not tying your identity to any sort of company, because companies go up and down. The last thing you want to do is tie your identity or your self-worth to something that, you wouldn't tie it to a stock. Like that wouldn't be very smart. And so, but no, tying it to the idea of being an entrepreneur and a business owner and wanting that growth. I think that's kind of how I think about it.
Why sales? What is it about sales that resonates or kind of lights up or sparkles for you to have spent your kind of career in developing?
Well, when I started, I originally was going to go to medical school or get like a PhD in nutrition or something like that. I was along that track, but I realized that I was doing it for what I thought at the time would give me status and money. Oh, I could be a doctor, and that's how you make money. And I read a book that it wasn't necessarily even a very, if I read it now, I wouldn't necessarily think it's like the best book ever. It's an entertaining read, but it really shifted my mindset of like, okay, no, if this is what I really want, and I want to make money, okay, I should get into business. Not like, those things should be more of a vocation, not a play of monetization, so to speak. So when I started my first business, that one I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to like blog and get clients to consult with nutrition online, but I was really just playing around. I didn't know what I was doing. But as I was building these skills, eventually I started an agency where I would run marketing for clients. And that was just because I saw other people doing it, quite frankly. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I was a beginner. So, I mean, this was almost seems like 10 years ago now. I don't know, maybe not quite that, but it was quite some time ago. And obviously, when you go from zero, nothing, no experience, to business, there's several different parts of business and skills that you need to learn. There's marketing, sales, operations, fulfillment, finance. I mean, there's people, team, management, there's recruiting. I mean, there's a bajillion things, right? There's a lot of skills. And so I really struggled. Like I made some sales and I grew my company a little bit, but I constantly just didn't know what didn't know. And I was young and I was inexperienced and it wasn't in the right place to really win at that company at that time. So the only thing that I felt at the time like I was excelling at, which I really wasn't, but I just felt like I was the sales aspect. So I thought in my head, okay, well, if this business doesn't work out, I'm just going to get into sales because, I knew some guys that were doing it and they were remote closers or whatever. And they were kind of closing other people's coaching programs. And they were making like $20,000 a month. That might as well have been $1 million a year to me at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. If I could make $20,000 a month, I could get a nice apartment. I could get this. Because I was, living in a place that was $700 a month or something. So once my bank account was below 1,000, I was like, I'm going to get into sales. And what I really enjoyed about it, to answer your question, is I was able to just focus on one skill. And what's also really amazing about that career is that, depending on what type of sales you're in, but in most types, the feedback loop is very fast. I mean, you either have a call with somebody or you're reaching out to somebody or whatever. And within 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on how long the sales cycle is or what you're doing, you're going to get feedback on what happened. And so it's a very quick and fast feedback loop, almost like self-development journey, so to speak. And that's what I really enjoyed most about it, as well as being able to really focus in and hone in on one skill and be able to just build that, if that makes sense.
It really does. I once was told, and I could be wrong because I'm not American. I don't know if the accent gives it away, but I was once told that one of the great entry-level roles to do in America is real estate and sales. They're the two ways that you can change your life most dramatically with the easiest entry point. Is that correct? Incorrect?
Well, there's certainly an easy entry point. It's not easy, but yes, if you can master sales, number one, every business has some sort of degree of sales. Like, I mean, even if you aren't having a phone sales or in-person sales aspect to whatever business that you're in, a lot of the skills and the communication that you're going to learn will apply to, let's say, understanding marketing better and being able to write good marketing campaigns, or being able to understand your prospect and be able to position your product so that they buy, anything like that. And then the other thing is, obviously, if you go into a business that is based on building a sales team, then you're already going to have a lot of the skills to be able to kind of get that business off of the ground. So, when I started my actual business after several years in sales, I mean, I was able to get to $1 million a year pace in like the first day. And that's because the day I launched, I took a bunch of sales calls and I closed 72 grand in the very first day. And so I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't very proficient at that skill, if that makes sense. So yeah. And the other thing is too, just mentally, you have to take a lot of rejection, and that hardens you in the right way. And it just aligns you with reality in the right way. And kind of, sales is almost like the military of business. It's like, it's just a good prerequisite to really do something that is not necessarily as hard as entrepreneurship, but is quite hard. And if you're in a 100% commission-based position as well, requires you to take on a lot of risk, and, you have to eat what you kill, so to speak, right? Like, you have to be able to go out there and produce, and you have unlimited income potential based on what you produce, kind of similar to entrepreneurship. So it's a very, very good training ground. I mean, many, many entrepreneurs started in sales for that reason.
Absolutely. Curious question. Curious minds want to know, when you think about sales and you were able to close 72,000 on your first day. Was that for someone, or did you then need to fulfill what you sold?
Well, that particular instance was when I first launched my business, right? But what's nice about sales in general, yes, is you don't have to worry about any of the other aspects of whatever running the company. I mean, it's a job, right? And all you have to do is be able to, most of the times, take leads and close them. In some positions, obviously, generate your own leads, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that was what was nice is I went from trying to have to juggle 13 different skills to just like a laser focus on one thing.
What's your favorite thing to laser focus on right now?
Right now in my career, well, what I am laser focusing on is new and different ways to market our company, which is kind of a degree of sales. Is that always my favorite thing to laser focus on? No, not necessarily. Like if I could just wake up and do whatever I wanted, I'd actually probably enjoy most just training my sales team. I mean, I like teaching sales, especially teaching it to my team who I've been working with and I can keep working with, et cetera. That's probably one of my favorite things. And just training my team in general and developing my people. Right now, I don't feel like I get to do that as much because I'm mainly focused on some new innovations in marketing.
Okay. So when we're talking about leading the front line of a sales team, you likened it to leading the front line of a war. Did I say that correctly?
I don't remember saying that.
No,
but
you might not have. But you made a war-based or a battle-based analogy, and I don't want to butcher it. So it was something like it is akin to going into battle and you eat what you kill kind of thing.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you help me with that so I can do the startup properly?
Well, what I mean is, obviously the sales is it's one of the front lines of your company. I like to say like the quality of your company is the quality of what happens on the front lines.
Yes.
The front line is just like all the customer facing portions of your business.
Okay.
And so that's anything that they see with the ad. That's how they interact. I mean, if you're running ads, right? But how they see whatever your marketing is and their interactions with that. If they call a number or they have a call with a setter or whatever, or they're getting pre-call emails or automate. I mean, all of that is customer facing. Then if they're having a sales call, that's customer facing. If they are sold and there's a transition and then it goes to an onboarding call, that's obviously customer facing. So the more you can optimize that within any department, the better your company is, right? And the way you optimize that is through good management. At first, you might be the manager, and then eventually you have managers under you. And so the question becomes, how do you actually assure that they're optimizing the front lines? So, yeah, that's kind of what I don't know if that answered your question.
Totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm going to have another run at my question. We're going to use the word frontline. So I think I heard you say one of your favorite things to do is to work with your frontline team, your sales team, where you can invest in them.
Yeah.
And your attention is often pulled in other directions, which makes sense as a leader and CEO that you are. What is it about supporting the front line that lights you up? Because arguably the front line is where you get all the rejections. Sometimes you get and deal with quite complex people and scenarios, very challenging, very technical, to be able to have an experience where the sales lead holds that conversation through a conversion and does so very wisely. What is it about that type of role that lights you up to mentor?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, this will sound a little crass, but the biggest thing I like about it is that I'm very good at it. And I mean, that's the thing about becoming passionate about anything, in my opinion, is the better you are at it, the more passionate you become at it, right?
Yeah.
Because it just becomes very fun once you almost sort of see the matrix, so to speak, with what you're doing. So with me, there's almost with clients I train and even my sales team who gets a lot of training from me, even after they've gotten a lot of training from me, there's almost no time I can ever look at what they're doing or look at a call and I don't see many, many things they could be doing better, right? I have a very high standard of perfection. And so I enjoy being able to train on that because I feel like I always have the answer to it, I suppose. So, I mean, like, is it always the most, of course, I do some of it now, but I have sales managers and of course, but if you ask me like one of the things I'm most laser focused on or what I enjoy being laser focused on, yeah, that's one of the things. Now, that's not always the most productive thing I need to be doing in the company, or that's not always what the constraint is in the company. But I enjoy it,
Yeah.
like if I could think about, if I could just do this all day, it'd be pretty fun. I mean, that'd be one of the things.
Yeah, that's what you said. And that's why I was so curious.
Yeah.
Because it is a beautiful thing in a way
Yeah.
to work with people on the front lines and to help them make sense of the experience they're having and build that mastery. Because that skill set, I think, takes you, as you rightly pointed out, through so many facets of an organization.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Next curious question is, when we're thinking about close.io, what is it that we could understand would happen? If we typed in close.io and we pressed enter on our internet search engine, what's coming up? What is it? How does it work? Tell us the brilliance.
Yeah, so Closers.io is essentially a sales training and recruiting company. So the way it works is at a very basic level, we place salespeople into businesses. So most people are familiar with working with a recruiter for whatever position. We're a recruiting firm that specializes in sales and sales leaders or outbound sales or et cetera across, 100 different industries. There's some more industries that we focus on a little bit more narrowed down, but we've done it from, every industry that you could think of. So what makes us a little bit different is that most organizations, they need salespeople, yes. And then on top of that, there's a lot of things about their sales system and how they ramp up reps, how they manage reps, how maybe even their marketing looks, that could be improved so the reps have a higher likelihood to exceed. So we are kind of a sales training consultancy hybrid along with the recruiting function to not only give the person the rep, but help ramp them up in the KPI and also just help their business and their sales team as a whole. So they have much, much better systems in terms of everything from their sales process to their outbound or setter process, MDR, SDR, to the way their marketing works and the way all those things integrate together, their lead scoring. So we help with a lot of that, because a lot of times when an entrepreneur hires a sales rep on their own, a big reason the churn can be so high is because they don't have those things.
Yeah.
So a lot of times kind of the rep might address a symptom, but what our company does is sort of looks at everything holistically. If I had to actually make like a medicine alternative, it would be kind of like being a practitioner who does prescribe medicine, but at the same time looks at the body holistically. That's kind of like what we do, but for sales training and sales teams.
That's actually a really helpful analogy, I think, as listeners are getting to know you and this world, because this world might feel unfamiliar to many people. I think it might be really pertinent of us to sort of identify the level and scale of your success here and your specialty area of expertise, because it is unparalleled, almost unparalleled in the market, is how I would read it. Would you agree?
In terms of, look, there's certainly companies that have, there's certainly companies doing more revenue than us in the sales training space. None of them do necessarily recruiting. Like we're more of a traditional service. A lot of those companies are like coaching, if that makes sense, or like events, or they're just kind of different things. So yeah, in terms of sales recruiting in our space, we're probably the biggest one, but there's much bigger recruiting companies and even sales-focused recruiting companies that do enterprise or other stuff like that. So I think we've had a lot of success in the space that we're known for, but there's a lot more out there too.
Yes. So with the wisdom that you have, you're a coveted guest to be on a podcast like this. You are also someone that many masterminds, business masterminds, would wish to have come through and speak to their communities about sales, about KPIs, about the process that we've identified in our short time together already. Can you talk to us about what that's like for you and whether that lights you up and whether that's something that's kind of part of your daily life, or if I just got really lucky to have you here today?
I always like, especially if a podcast is local and has, good production, I always like doing it. And yeah, I like talking about sales and sales teams and entrepreneurship and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's something I enjoy. It's something that I regularly do, for my clients. And, we have a mastermind that has 200 people in it. It's $70,000 a year. So, that's one of my favorite things that I get to do, especially with the right segment of business owners. If you have a customer base that you really like, our clients are people who I just genuinely like talking to. They're very I'll learn stuff from our clients. And so I think that's really important. That's fun. I'm not somebody I probably need to do a lot more social media and getting out there and brand, and I'm working on it, right? But that's not necessarily like like some people just love that. That's not necessarily like, I'm a little bit more neutral. It's like not necessarily totally my thing.
Do you feel like maybe that matches your career?
In what way?
Well, it seems to me that you've got a very clever brain. And I also notice, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm learning you, that you have this ability to really focus and you're quite downregulated and you're able to just hit the mark. And that is precision. Precision. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, I like to optimize and build great systems, whether they're sales systems or not, Probably what I like and enjoy doing the most is coming up with a profitable business model, coming up with a new profitable marketing campaign, and coming up with all the KPIs and the numbers that we need to hit. And okay, if we hit this, we can do this, we could scale to this. And okay, let's train the sales team around that. Like, that's probably what I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're like, man, I really want to build my business to this and put a leader in so that all I could focus on is content. That's never been me. Content for me is a means to the end. I mean, sure, do I want to help people? Of course. But like, it's really like, okay, it's like promoting my business, right? Which I think is very valuable. Obviously, tons of people who have huge followings have built great businesses off the back of that. I like I just like building businesses.
And systems, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
And part of building a business, especially in certain businesses, is, having a really great brand and organic and stuff. And that's another skill I probably need to hone in on.
Yeah. So does it translate? Because there's this superpower in you. It's clear as a bell to me. And it's like this focused, tight, on it, detailed sequence, build it really well, and then it flows. That's what I'm picking up from you. And then there is the work that you do in Masterminds, which is probably teaching those places and teaching those systems. But it also feels like it requires a different aspect of yourself. Is that identifiable to you? Or do you take your self that I get to see in front of me right now all the way through all parts of your life?
I think I'm pretty consistent all the way through. Like, for instance, if I speak, and I speak often, I'm not like a motivational speaker.
No rah-rahs?
Right? No. I'm much more of I'm going to tell you exactly what works or share exactly what's working for us.
Yeah.
Speaker.
Yeah.
And I think that, some people have more of that style. Some people are more not that style, and some people are in between. I think that, I wish and I'm certain if I trained on it, I could be. I just don't have the same proclivity to like really good, like motivational kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
I could do it. I don't.
You could
I don't,
learn it.
Yeah, I could learn it.
Right.
But that's generally, you're asking how I show up. That's
Yeah.
generally kind of how, yes.
Yeah. I love that. There's something understated but so powerful about it. And it just, I think, draws a person in. And that's not to make any other methodology better or worse or comparison, because I feel like we are just who we are, and that's beautiful. And so what I love about this is we're getting to see you and understand you and how that has been so successful in the work that you've done. And there's one of the Dr. Seuss sayings that I am not going to say correctly, but it's about being the you-iest you that there is.
Yes, yeah.
And that is what is really coming through in such a beautiful way with you, is that you've got this deep integration of self, and then you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And how about that?
Yeah.
I feel like there's some wisdom in that.
Yeah.
Would you mind joining me in unpacking about maybe any permissions you've had to give yourself to be you, or any times where you've thought maybe I should adjust myself and then you did or you didn't? Because I feel like you may almost inherently have this wisdom. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In terms of things that I've had to give myself permission for, well, I think number one, especially, I would still consider myself a relatively young entrepreneur. Even when you have a lot of success, it's easy to look for bigger and better things. And, oh, well, what if I was in this industry or that? And I'm not necessarily cut off to, pursuing other industries or what have you. But I think once you learn a little bit more about yourself and what your unique abilities are and what you're very good at, like for instance, if I ever got into another type of business, it would be a business that my unique advantage could be still our sales team, right? And it might be a totally different business. A business that I'm probably not going to get into is a very product heavy, very technical engineering type business, right? Which is very much what is like popular, Tesla, Amazon, stuff like that, right?
Oh, I see.
So, I think that it's kind of knowing what you're good at and, giving myself permission to kind of understand that, lean into it, and essentially go down a path that your unique abilities align the most to, I guess, if that makes sense.
That is so profound. I just kind of want to say it louder for those in the back. There is this sense that I am allowed to be me, and I'm giving myself permission to just be in my lane and be the meest me that there is. And then look at the outcomes you've created from there. I mean, how magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode. Is there any times where you have, let's go with haters, feedback, well-meaning, not well-intentioned, well-meaning advice that has had a negative, unintended consequence, where that's shaken your core and you've been like, wow, I felt like who I was just right. And what I'm seeing from this feedback, wherever it comes from, is that I could be different. And have you ever had that experience of having that jarring sensation of, I was traveling in my track, I was having a good time, and then here comes something out of left field that's had an unintended negative consequence?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly there's all sorts of, anytime you primarily market your business online, you're going to have nasty things probably said about you online eventually, right? And anybody who does anything pretty meaningful at a meaningful scale will experience that. And I mean, there's people who have experienced 100 and 1,000, 1,000 times more than me. But I mean, look, like whether it's a customer that says something nasty or just, somebody who's, the first thing I ask myself is like, well, is this true? And a lot of times the answer is like, no. So then you just move on. Sometimes you get feedback or what have you, and there's truth to it. And you take the truth and you ask yourself how you could do better and you move on. Right. But I don't think that, obviously the right advice is you can't let it affect you that much. Like that's the logical way to look at it. Now, does it affect you? Yeah, sometimes because we all have, a desire to, be good and do what's right and try to help people and et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And there's parts of us that get triggered by either feeling attacked or feeling misunderstood or feeling like a certain comment is not fair or what have you, and it relates back to your childhood or what have you. You could do some, over time, you'll desensitize to it no matter what. Mm. Or you could try to do some emotional work to kind of release that. But, at this point, there could be, it depends on what it is. There could be stuff that kind of throws me off. Most times, it's relatively, I'm not going to be too fazed by it.
Yeah, you've built some resilience and some discernment about which things you'll pick up and examine.
Well, after certain things happen so many times, like you kind of just realize it's not real or even not a big deal.
Yes. So curious minds also want to know, when you are working on something that has shaken you or is harder for you, when you're in the middle of the growth, where it's darkest before dawn, could you talk to us about the types of ways you take care of yourself, the way that you navigate challenging situations where you've got to grow into the next version of yourself?
Yeah, in terms of navigating challenge, The number one thing that, I mean, this will sound obvious, but if I'm in a very challenging situation, I mean, I need to sit down and write out, what is my plan to actually, what is my solution or what is my plan? I know that sounds like the most basic thing ever. For me, I mean, my state will totally change once I have a clear plan of what we're going to do to fix whatever the challenge is. And so that's the main thing that I spend a lot of time focusing on, because I don't mind being behind or being in a tough situation or a challenging situation. I do mind being in that place without a plan, right? Or I'm much more, let's say, thrown off or triggered or what have you, if I feel like I don't have a clear plan or path to be able to get out of that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think a lot of it comes down to that. I mean, other than that, I keep a good routine. I, go to bed at the same night, wake up at the same day. I work out every single morning. I do like some sort of meditation or Wim Hof breathing that personally just helps me a lot. And so that always kind of keeps me a little bit more centered.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main thing is just knowing, okay, what am I going to do? Once I'm very confident in the plan, I know that, navigating that challenging situation, the success out of that will be inevitable.
Yeah. Clear is kind, right?
Yeah.
So when we're in confusion, we're usually in pain because we cannot find a way out. And as soon as we have some sense of clarity, it's like our frame of reference opens and it becomes possible that I can walk out of this. Our whole physiology changes. Our whole sense of, okay, so I could do it this way or I could do it that way. What's the next right thing? We can move more into that space of action. When we don't understand, when we're in that space pre-figuring something out, that confusion is so difficult for a human. The human brain really doesn't know how to code confusion as anything other than a threat. So I love that your first port of call is to reduce the threat by finding the clarity amongst the confusion. Did I hear you say you use writing to do that?
Well, I don't, not pen and pad. Maybe I should. I'll just type it out. Right. I mean, a lot of times too, I mean, it might be a spreadsheet. It might be typing it out. It kind of depends on what I'm navigating through. But yeah, once I have it, like, I got to kind of get it out of here. I mean, it could be maybe I just got to journal about what my plan is or just reiterate that, in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a numbers guy?
Yes and no. I'm definitely not a numbers person. Yeah.
I would have read you as someone who likes the data.
Oh, I mean, what I meant is I'm definitely not a numbers person.
Oh,
yeah. I need to I only said the one not. But yeah, I'm definitely not a numbers person. Right? So like I certainly, like I like to see data and figuring that out and all of that stuff. But I'm also, emotional as well.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, when do we see the emotions? When do they make themselves known?
Well, I mean, it just depends. I mean, in certain situations, there's ways where it helps me and there's ways where it doesn't. And in certain ways where it doesn't help me is, I might not want to look at the numbers as much as I normally should, right? Or I might, I might be like if I'm running a marketing promotion, right, and it's not working the level I want it to be. Instead of looking at the numbers and only being like, okay, well, if we just lowered this to this, and if we just could raise this to this, then it would be working. It's kind of like, no, it's not working. Just scrap it, right? So there could be sometimes some a little bit more of emotional knee-jerk responses. Other times, where emotion's very positive is like being able to have a heavy amount of belief in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And having a lot of conviction and really selling other people that need to be sold, whether as team members or what have you, on the way that we're going. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes total sense because I feel like sometimes we need to, as leaders, we need to hold the vision and then enroll people into the dream. And so sometimes that takes such a huge amount of courage and lift in order to move an organization forward. Is that where you were going?
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also get the emotions in the way because I feel like we are actually humans. And sometimes I think we forget that in the business world where we will have a human response to something. We're like, that's it. It's over. This is not going to work. And then if you eat something, walk around the block, hug your kids, pat your cat, walk your dog, take a shower, take a run, reset the body, then all of a sudden you can come back online and go, well, where is the data? What does the data say about this? And then you can make a more resourceful decision or step forward. Yeah. But the human experience, everybody has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the thing that you're working on right now that is the hardest.
Well, that's a great question. So, I mean, right now, our industry has shifted a lot. And so the way we've previously been marketing isn't as effective as it used to be. And so it's coming up with a equally as effective marketing model or more effective that's going to, take it to that next level. That's the easiest way I could say it in one sentence.
What are you noticing that the market is switching from? So what was it and where is it shifting to?
Yeah, well, some of this gets a little technical. So, I mean, the way I generated calls or new meetings for our company was through what's called a sales call funnel. And so there were some updates through Google and how they manage their Google Calendar that have limited in my industry the effectiveness of that funnel. And that's really what a lot of the clients that I've worked with use. And so essentially it's finding fundamentally different new mechanisms of lead generation that aren't going to be affected by that change. And then I think there's potentially like economic changes and maybe market changes and supply and demand stuff that's post-COVID. But I think 50% of the issue is what I just explained first. So that's kind of the deeper, more technical response to it. And there's definitely a lot of models and a lot of people who are still having success. But if you look at the commonalities of them, they're doing it a little bit differently. So the approach kind of needs to change.
And so what's the new space? What's the dream space? Where is the new landing spot?
Well,
for
yeah.
companies?
I mean, the two things that we're looking at the most is number one, some sort of product-led approach where essentially we have something that liquidates the budget on the front end, and then our setter team or outbound sales team can actually call and generate those leads. And then everything that's through a setter has a higher show rate and higher close rate than the call funnel, because the show rate is the biggest Achilles heel of the call funnel right now, again, because that Google Calendar update. And then the other thing that we're shifting heavily into is just a pure outbound approach, like reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. And that's something that's taken a long time to crack, but we have it now where, it's definitely looking quite scalable. So that's a quite positive
Well,
thing.
it's nice to have a new model
Yes.
outside of Meta and a little bit of Google.
Yeah.
If you can move into LinkedIn and crack that code, I think that's been available to be cracked for many, many years. And so if you've cracked it, Cole Gordon, if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So that's what you're working on. I'm curious, what has been in your journey to date one of the harder challenges? And I like to use the analogy of the bow being drawn back before it flies, where you've had to go all the way back. You might have had to go into the darkest before the dawn type scenario, where you're like, I just don't know how this thing is going to unfold. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if this is going to work. Could you tell us about one of those darkest before dawn experiences and maybe take us through the things you learned or the way in which you built yourself out of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, the number one thing is when I first started, I had no idea what was going on or what I was doing or what I was going to do or what business I should do. All I knew is I just wanted to have a business. And I think that, it's like if you flail around long enough in the dark, you find a light switch or something, because I literally was directionless. I just had no idea what was going on, but I just was like, well, I'm not going to quit. So, and then eventually you kind of start to find things that you resonate with more, and you start to, certain luck kind of comes your way and you just kind of keep going. And then I, found doing the agency business. Then from there I found my own company. So I think like the biggest thing was, I remember vividly just having some really difficult times of just not knowing what the hell I was doing or where I was going to go. I just knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to go, to all this graduate school and stuff like that. But when everybody else is doing that and you're still living in your college town and you're just like, oh, I'm going to do this other thing, it's like very lonely and very, you have no direction whatsoever.
It's kind of brave and courageous to wait while you figure it out.
Yeah, I
instead of
suppose it was.
doing something else. So it's quite a courageous act.
Yeah.
I'm curious, if we slice that thinner, how did you start to recognize your path? How did you find your steps when it was so dark?
Yeah, I mean, I I consumed a lot of information, and the number one thing that really did help was just investing in myself and buying education and buying courses or coaches or mentors with the little money that I had, quite frankly. And through that, I mean, those, every investment I've ever made in myself, some of them are better than others, but some of some of those initial ones were just like mind-blowingly, good because I just knew so little. I didn't know anything. And so the very first one I made, I mean, completely opened my eyes to like a whole industry and a whole space. And that's kind of what helped me get into the agency space. Then the second one I made is my agency. I had no clients, and that one helped me get clients. So I was like, okay, I know what I'm trying to do now. And then that one helped me get clients. And then from there, I mean, the final big shift was like, okay, again, like this isn't working. Now I have no money. Blew my whole savings. And then I got into sales, and then it was like, okay, trying to figure that out. And when I got into sales, I was like the worst person on the team. Even though I thought I was kind of good because of my agency and stuff, I ended up in this difficult position selling real estate agents and selling them a product they didn't want. And so like immediately I was just terrible. And then I just started working at it and getting better and working at it and getting better. And then once I broke through with that, that's when I really finally started to see some momentum, because at least I had relief. Like I was like, okay, something is working, even if it wasn't a business. It was just like, I'm making money, like I'm making $20,000 a month, like that, that was like I said, like felt like $1 million at that time.
Well, I think it was. Like back in those days, 20 grand is worth more than 20 grand is now.
Most certainly, yeah.
And if you were paying rent, I think at $700, 20 grand would have felt like.
Yeah. Well, I moved out of that place pretty quick.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I distill from that is that you kept walking your path even when you couldn't see the next step. And even when you got there, and you know what they say, when you take a step, sometimes then the light turns on. You're like, oh, I am where I'm supposed to be.
Mm.
And even then, sometimes you were at the bottom of the sales team. You didn't just magically land at the top of the sales team, even though it turns out you have quite the skill set in sales. You didn't land. You still had to work your way up. You still had to build your way all the way through to where you are now, step by step, brick by brick. And that feels like wisdom to me.
Mm. Well, thank you.
Yeah. What do you think you might build in general? So, because you're lovely and young, you've got a huge, beautiful life ahead of you. What does it look like in your 80th year? What does it look like in your 90th year? Like, what happens down that end of the timeline?
Wow. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I hope to generally happen, but that is so far along in the future that I don't even know what world we're going to be living in then. So, but I think the most important things in that time frame is, and to a degree of this, I've already achieved it, but to continue to have a amazing, and big family and a lot of happiness within that part of my life. And then, wealth in, multiple facets, right? And not just in your relationships, but in your health, and then obviously in your finances. And I mean, obviously everything is already trending there, and even you could argue is there in some ways. So it's just like about sustaining that. But obviously I want to continue to grow and have more, and being able to stretch and expand. And then I think, most importantly, being at that age, I mean, looking back and being proud of what I've done and the risks I've taken and what I've tried to do, and that I've tried to do my best and grow the most that I can grow. I think Ed Milet says that, like, at the end of your years, there's a version of yourself, and you want to meet that best version of yourself. Yeah. And I think like that's a good way to think about it. I think that's how that resonates with me.
So Erickson has 5 psychosocial stages of development, and look, The last one starts at 60 or 65, which I think maybe it could do with a revision because I think this is a little early. But also, I'm not 60 or 65, so I don't know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But he says at 60, 65, you start to look at your life and you start to say, did I do something I'm proud of?
Mm.
Does the way I've lived it, does it match up? Is there a gap? And in those generations between those decades between when you're 60, 65 till the end of your life, you spend that time working out on balance, I did or I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's an interesting premise. And I often bring that forward to my current age and stage of life and say, why wait till I'm that age to decide whether what I'm doing is something that I'm going to be satisfied, contented, pleased with, where I'll be able to leave this life knowing that who I am matches what I've done. And that feels like a good job, like I've done it. If we brought that premise back in time to today, does it match for you? Would everything line up for you, or would you make any adjustments?
No, I think everything would line up for me for now. I mean, it doesn't mean the businesses I'm in right now or what I'm always going to be in. I mean, I have a whole life ahead of you. You never know. But, I think right now I'm like, if I think about a business as writing a chapter, or writing a book, I'm still writing chapters in that book.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels like, I want to realize what I'm doing to its full potential.
Yeah.
And so, no, I'm super proud of what we're doing now and proud of what's going on in my personal life and everything.
So now let's apply this to somebody who's followed this exercise along, who's listening along at home, who's like, Cole, my life doesn't match something I would be proud of if I was doing this exercise. There's a gap between me and the life that I wish I could live.
Mm-hmm.
What wisdom or advice might you offer to somebody who's like, oh my gosh, my life is not a good fit for who I am?
To change that immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something I've never struggled with. I mean, I've always very, very much pursued and went down the path that I wanted to go down. So, I know it's for some people, especially as you get older or maybe have other things going on, it's tough. But I think at the end of the day, you only have one life to live, and you have to spend it doing the things that you're put here to do.
Yes. So it's about recognizing who you really are and allowing yourself, maybe giving permission to yourself to live that way, even if you're the one who doesn't go to college to become a doctor and everyone else does. Maybe you give yourself permission to sit in the unknown, in the dark, and tentatively walk towards what you think it is, checking in. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's our full circle moment.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
So we're all friends now, Cole. You're in.
Okay.
Yeah. The people listening here are like, that guy got him. Roger that. Got some good wisdom. We're at ease because we've delivered this connective experience. And so now we're at this portion where we get to relax. You can put some comfy shoes on. You can settle in. We'll put ourselves on a patio. I've got a nice chilled lemonade that's perfectly tart and perfectly sweet and perfectly cold. There's heaps of it there. We're relaxed. There's a couple of listeners joining us on this patio. It's a beautiful night. And we all kind of take an exhale because it's the end of the evening and soon we'll be heading off to bed. And there's just this sense from one of the listeners who says, you know what, Cole, is there anything else? Is there any other advice or wisdom that you have for us before we finish this up and we head off to bed and tomorrow begins?
I don't know. What I was thinking about as we were talking is, this will sound a little grim, but, in hospice, when people are dying, like the things that they say. And I think I think as much as I am so driven by business, it's important to remember the things that are important, which is your family, your friends, and your loved ones and all of that stuff. So making sure that you're putting that first and maximizing the time with them. And then also just leaving no stone unturned with whatever your purpose is in life, whether that's work or something else. and making sure you've taken the risks that you wanted to take and that you're going to be proud of the things that you've accomplished.
I mean, that sounds like a beautiful way to end. And it has been such a joy to have you here and for you to bring your youiest you and to share with us the wisdom of how to build something when you're starting in a place that you thought you probably wouldn't, and then you followed your intuition and you did, and then you built what you have. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a joy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read my outro. I'd like to thank Cole Gordon for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes. In today's episode, we explored his journey from sales to entrepreneurship, the challenges and triumphs of scaling multiple companies, and the insights he's gained along the way. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. You can follow Cole by searching @Cole Thomas Gordon, and to stay connected with me, follow @Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I hope you gained a little wisdom today. My name is Meg Tuohey, and this is Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.